headed the women's desk at Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting, FAIR, the media watchdog group, then took the Laura Flanders Show to Air America Radio in 2004. Out of that came the television program Grit TV with Laura Flanders. She is now the award-winning host and executive producer of the Laura Flanders Show, a nationally syndicated TV and radio program that looks at real-life models of shifting power in the arts, economics, and politics. And so it is my deep pleasure to give you the winner of our 2019 Urban Journalist Award, Laura Flanders.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Beautiful. Great exposure of male impotence, me. Thanks a lot. Really, it's an extraordinary pleasure to be here and an honor. And I like how when you had the trustees stand up, all the people in the back who are standing up, who are also the trustees of this organization, because none of these organizations exist without people like you, supporters that come and stand at the back and participate and show up and show your support. And none of us, I don't think, would be here if it hadn't been for legions of people who have showed up for events like this. And it's a great, incredible honor to be here at City Limits. Since 1976, right? 1976, covering and uncovering the people and the politics of New York City. From one financial crisis to another, City Limits has reported on what's going wrong and also what's going right in this precious city of ours. Preet and Sean, it's an honor, truly, to be sharing this stage with two such extraordinary crusaders, from taking on mafias in and outside of the White House and Wall Street, calling out the criminal cabal in the Donald Trump administration, to decriminalizing people who should never have been criminalized in the first place, and getting himself elected mayor of his hometown. If there's anything I think we all have in common, it is a bit of a knack for survival, and a possibly irrational belief in a positive future, a future that might be better than this one. We like to say at the Laura Flanders Show that we are the show where the people who say it can't be done take a back seat to the people who are doing it. And you are all doing it every day. And for that, I thank you. Frankly, I've never actually thought of myself as an urban journalist. If commercial media is all about delivering people to advertisers, I think that what our job in the independent media is to deliver people to each other. And I believe that has given me the opportunity to have one of the best jobs in the world. I spend my time introducing the public to people that I think are the most extraordinary, marginalized experts of our time. The people who, if just we listened more closely, more carefully, would help us plot a future course. As every corporation, it seems, from Amazon to AT&T and Apple, seems to want to sell us motion detectors for our smart homes, a way, I think, to frighten us half to death about our neighbors and the UPS delivery guy. I like to believe that we are movement detectors, looking for light and pathways and a way forward. In the last month alone, with my colleagues, some of whom are here, Matthew Colacello, Tommy Taifi, people at the Laura Flanders Show have reported on Newark, New Jersey, where the residents were blowing the whistle on the poisons in the water long before politicians would pay attention. And from right here in City Hall, in New York and City Hall, where Deputy Mayor J. Philip Thompson is part of a global movement to leverage the purchasing power of big cities like this one to promote economic democracy and worker ownership. I've never thought of what I do as urban journalism because the movements and issues we take on the show spread well beyond the city's limits. But as I was coming here today and thinking about those two words, funny that, I was realizing how city and limits, those two words speak volumes about where we find ourselves in this moment. The question of our time is really held right there. Just what is a city? Are cities scarce spaces? What are they for? Are they for profits or are they for people? And is there any limit to how much of one we can pile up in these places while keeping the other down? This Saturday, I was in another fine New York State town, Buffalo, where members of the Our City initiative were gathered in their third anti-displacement summit in a converted Public School 77. On the top floor is housing for retirees, and on the ground floor are activist organizations like the Ujamaa Institute and the Push Buffalo organization that we've been following for a long time. In that crowded public school, they played one of our episodes that featured their work, and they held conversations with each other about what the future holds for Buffalo with regard to housing and transit and affordability and climate. And they're very conscious that Buffalo is in a northern zone, which puts it at the moment in a prime relocation site for climate refugees. And they're wondering, will there be a place for them in the future in Buffalo? Who'll stay put and who will be displaced as more and more people are fighting over less and less land? Sometimes we call it gentrification, but I realized this Saturday we're talking about something way bigger than the advent of the new latte shop or even development. We are dealing with, I think, the critical question of this moment. At last look, 60% of all the world's assets were invested in real estate. That's $217 trillion, almost twice global GDP. And of that $217 trillion, 74% is invested in housing, but over 30% of that is absentee ownership, stock market investments, hedge funds, BlackRock et al. Meanwhile, in the US, home ownership is at a 50-year low. Renter nation is growing, and half of all renters in this city and globally, nationally, have unaffordable rent, which means it's eating up more than half of their income. Cities and limits. It's really kind of call the question time. And I think gatherings like this invite us to listen carefully. And I think when we listen carefully, and when your reporters with their ears to the ground listen carefully, you can hear the cracking of a system breaking. I think we're at a tipping point. And I think that tipping point is happening right between that word city and that word limits. Can we pass policy, as Naomi Klein said it on our show the other day, that lights up the best parts of ourselves, the parts that rush out after Sandy when there's a crisis? I think it starts by looking to one another, talking to one another, introducing one another to one another, and listening. And then I think it starts by encouraging policies like that light up the best parts of ourselves, and discouraging, resisting, standing up as you have, my fellow award winners, against the policy that would put us at one another's throats. I think it begins when we call the whistle on policy that provokes hate and fear, and each one for themselves. It continues when we talk to one another and pay attention and report on what we hear. And I think we make progress insofar as we can continue to be curious and to be kind. And that's what I promise that we will continue to do at the Laura Flanders Show with your help. Thanks.